Way back in the day when we were a football-only podcast, he was the first non-football coach we ever had on the program, and I'm thrilled to have him here on today before everyone expects to see 7 of his Kentucky Wildcats drafted into the National Basketball Association. He is the head coach of Kentucky basketball, John Calipari. How are you, Coach?
Good, Rich. How are you?
I am doing fine. Have I caught you on your way to the draft?
Yes, you have. I'm getting ready to go in the Holland Tunnel right now, so let's hope we New York has this thing wired so that you and I can keep talking.
Okay, well, I'm a New Yorker, so if it drops, we'll blame it on New Jersey. How does that sound?
There you go.
Yeah, that's just the New Yorker in me right there. Coach Calipari joining me here on the program. So what is going through your mind right now as you're heading to a draft where you may see 7 of your kids go into the association?
Well, it's just a big day. When we recruit these kids and you see their family, you hear their dreams, their aspirations, you sit on the same side of the table, their dreams become your dreams. You're not trying to hold guys back. You're not trying to shove guys out. You're just trying to help them. And, what happens now is, everybody can talk about, hey, we won the first 38 and, 38, a record that probably will never be matched. And what kind of success. You didn't win the whole thing. And then, well, it's one and done. And best of 7 is a totally different dynamic than one game. But here's where it comes down. My season ends tomorrow. And it looks as though Karl's won. It looks as though both Devin, Trey, have an opportunity to be in the top 10. I don't think any of the 3 would drop lower than 14. You have DeMarcus and Andrew right on the edge of that first round. Okay, maybe one of them bounces in the early second. And then Aaron will be in the second round somewhere. And you're talking 7 guys. And so, I'm really... it's tough, though. The hard thing, I'm more nervous sitting there waiting for a guy to be drafted than I am during a game. Literally. Like I'm sick to my stomach. When a guy I thought was going 7, all of a sudden he doesn't get picked 7. He doesn't get picked 8. He doesn't get picked 9. I want to vomit right then.
Well, it's every coach I've ever met, is a control freak, and this is beyond your control as to where these kids go, and where you hope them to go is where you hope them to go. And KarlAnthony Towns right now being number 1 overall. Do you sense that just from what you're hearing from the Timberwolves at all?
Yeah. I don't think it's a question. I think he was. And again, he wasn't in the conversation at the beginning of the year, even in the summer, and he wasn't in that conversation. Now all of a sudden he's solidly that pick. But I think for all these kids, and I mentioned this the other day, we teach positionless basketball. We're teaching you how to play. I'll give you an example. Trey Lyles. We played him as a 3. He's a stretch 4 in the NBA or a 3, but he's 6'10". 6'10". You think of Golden State. They were playing 6'7" and 6'8" guys as a 5. He is 6'10". You look at Devin Booker. Reminds you of Klay Thompson, and he's 6'7". He's big. Willie Cauley can guard 1 through 5. The reason Karl has skyrocketed is they look at him and say, he can play inside, he can play outside, he can guard pick and roll. He's been taught defensively. He blocks shots, he rebounds outside his area. All of a sudden, bang, Willie 1 through 5. Dakari, even though people are looking at him and saying you need a guy like a 7-footer, 260, they still say, look, this kid can guard pick and rolls. He does it. And even the Twins, the Twins, and I said this, if we lose, they're going to get too much of the grief, and they did. It wasn't fair, and I told them it wouldn't be fair, but I knew that would happen. But I think Andrew and Aaron will be 10-year vets minimum in that league. They got great size. They're multiple positions. They're positionless. Andrew can play 1 or 2. Aaron can play 3. They're 6'6", 220. They're really 6'6", 220, not a 6'2" guy saying he's 6'6". They're big.
I'm on the phone with John Calipari, Kentucky basketball head coach. In terms of the Twins, do you think there's any chance that they get together and which one likes the draft position better and they switch spots and nobody knows any difference? Have they talked about that, Coach?
Well, I'll tell you what, they could have done it early on for me.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while. But after you're around them, you know which one is which. But it just takes you a minute.
Yeah.
But they are identical. And, I don't think, they don't need to play together. But, the kids from Kansas went out to Phoenix, and it's helped them both. So they could if someone wanted to do that, but I don't think it's necessary. They're both really, Aaron made all those game winners. You know what he's done. And last year, not this past season, the year before, basically dragged us to a Final Four and, matter of fact, a championship game. And you think about those two. They've been to two Final Fours, a national championship game, won an SEC title, won a SEC tournament, won more games. 38 and whatever they won. You're talking a ton of games in college under the hottest of lights. Those two performed. And that's why I'm saying I don't understand how those two could slip, but at the end of the day, they're going to get drafted, and they can prove their worth, and they're going to be in the league a long time. I'm
with Coach Calipari joining me here on the program. I'd love to talk about some of your former players that are in the spotlight in the association, starting right now at DeMarcus Cousins in Sacramento. George Karl says he doesn't want to trade him. Every report says he does want to trade him. Have you spoken lately to DeMarcus at all?
He and I he texted me on Father's Day, and I hit him back, and we just texted. But he's not getting traded. He's not getting traded. Why would you trade an all-star? You know how hard it is to get all-stars? And DeMarcus, as a 4 or a 5, is in the top 4 in the NBA at each position. Well, the only other guy like that is that kid with one eyebrow, Anthony Davis. And then they'll say, well, he's difficult. I coached him. And if you think that he's the only player that's difficult in the league, you're out of your mind. But I will tell you this, there are not that many All-Stars, which he is.
Well,
I don't think he'll be traded.
George Karl has traded All-Stars before. Have you spoken to Karl? I don't know if you have any relationship with Coach Karl, but he's done this before.
I have not. I haven't. So, maybe something crazy happens, but I just don't see it. Let me tell you, you know how hard it is to get All-Stars in that league? Mm. And it's, when you get one, just hard to give up on him.
Well, in many ways, that's why Alvin Gentry is raising his hand to leave an NBA championship team and go be a head coach again for, as you said, the kid with one eyebrow. How's that going to work out, do you think, him and Coach Gentry together in New Orleans?
I think it's going to be fabulous. Here's the thing that just happened. LeBron James, and I don't want to say by himself because it's a team game, but you and I know, dragged Cleveland to the championship game. If it wasn't best of 7, and you asked me, I would say I was taking Cleveland. Best of 7, it's just too many games for one guy to drag his team. And the same thing for us in college. It's one game, man. It's just that's what makes our tournament in college what it is. Like, if it were best of 7, my team would have won last year. It wasn't best of 7. It was one game. Mm-hmm. So what he proved, LeBron, that one guy can get you near the promised land. So you got to get near it first, especially New Orleans. But if you had to name 2 other guys that have that kind of ability, now that it's proven it can be done, who would you say those other 2 would be other than Anthony? I think Anthony's one of them. Who would you say?
Well, I didn't know there'd be questions on this exam. Durant obviously would be one of them. Westbrook is another.
So Durant,
Curry.
Durant would be one.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say a healthy Derrick Rose would be the other.
Interesting.
So now all of a sudden you're down to 4 or 5 guys that are that good. Now the question becomes, can DeMarcus be that guy? Can DeMarcus be the guy that can drag his team? And that's why I say there's not many of those dominating 20 and 12, 25 and 12. There are just not that many guys like that. And so, I think LeBron, with all the injuries, you think about it, that team kept fighting, and, he dragged them. He had an unbelievable run.
So before I let you go, I would be remiss without, having, a Hall of Famer or Hall of Fame coach on the line, as I do right now, without asking you. I know this is not your sport, but you saw what happened in UCLA with P. Diddy and a coach. And I'd love to ask you your thoughts on a coach with a helicopter dad. Let's be honest. I'm sure you've seen them. And what you do when you've got star players and a star program and a dad that may need some handling as a head coach. What do you do in that situation?
I fly in on the helicopter to them. So it starts that way.
I like it.
And then
I like it. I like the style.
No, everything that we do all comes back to recruiting. If you embellish, overpromise, if you beg, can't coach these kids. If you do anything you're not supposed to do, they own you. If you've ever watched me and some other guys that are really aggressive with their guys, that aren't afraid to tell them the truth, that aren't afraid to sit them down, you understand that, how about this one? You're not starting, or you're coming off the bench. How about Karl Towns, the number 1 pick, taking 10 shots a game? What? What about Devin Booker? What if Devin goes 8? He came off the bench for us. So you can't promise starting minutes, shots. If you do that, you're guessing. And if you guess wrong, you got no trust. The other side of it is, all these kids want to chase their dreams. And that's why I tell them, it's a business decision, man. You better look and make sure what you want for your career has been done before. Oh, you're going to be the first one to ever have it? Wait a minute. Have they done what you want to have done for you in your career? So those are all things. I think it's all through the recruiting process. Mm-hmm. But I've gone in a helicopter before to see kids. You know what? If I think back, I don't think I got either kid. I landed on the football field.
Yeah.
Walked in, the band was playing. They weren't playing for me. They were just out there playing.
Sure.
But didn't get the kid.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for the cell reception in the tunnel.
It worked.
It was great. It was great.
You can't complain about that.
Enjoy the time with your future NBA players there and at the draft. And I already look forward to the next time you call back in. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich.
You bet. That's John Calipari, Kentucky head coach, here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.